All right, everybody. It is 7 o'clock, as I promised. Welcome to the Q&A. All right, so we got a few people up in here, and you'll see me looking back and forth. I've got my laptop set up over here, so that way I can look at all the comments and all that while I'm sharing out my screen. And this is totally open format, so I want to kind of go over what we've done in the past, where we are now, and what some of the features, ideas, things like that are going to be coming up. Some people have questioned and commented, sometimes on surveys, sometimes on chat, Zoom calls that I've had. So I want to just kind of go over everything, try to answer as many questions as possible. Hey, Brian. Greetings and salutations, Dave. What we got? Dale, thank you. Thank you for tuning in. Thanks, everybody, for 17 viewers already. I'm highly, highly appreciative of everybody that is chiming in. So, first and foremost, actually, I can't see all the viewer names on here because that's just the way Facebook Live likes to go. Hey, Vinny. Hey, Josh. Jimmy. Am I quiet? Okay, hold on. Let me bring my microphone up. See, this is what this is here for. Do I sound a bit louder now? Is everything sound a little bit clearer as I get the mic a little bit more closer? Hey, Dave. Nice to see you as well. Nice to see everybody coming in. Again, so appreciative of all the support that I've had for Q over the years. And when I mean over the years, many, many, many of them. This was pen and napkin ideas in 2015. And as a lot of people know, I had a number of starts that I tried to get the product out and kept on running into roadblocks here and there, but we're actually here. Excellent. Thanks, Jamal. That audio is good. Awesome. So, few quick things. Actually, I'm going to change over my view here so that way you actually see the desktop. So, where have we been and why are we here now? So, again, 2015, I initially envisioned this. By 2017, I'd already gone through one set of developers that couldn't quite do it. I actually went through another developer local here. He kind of fizzled out. And then I went to a whole development company that got me to a certain point, and they held the code hostage for 2 years. So all that time between 2017, late 2017, going into 2020, the code wasn't even in my possession, which was just absolutely frustrating. Does Baby Yoda come with my subscription? Good question. I don't know. I've got two Grogus. I don't know if you can see both. I've got the one over here, animatronic up top, and Baby Grogu behind here. You know what? Maybe. Maybe for my 100th customer, I'll send a Baby Grogu. How about that? So, 2017, we get the code to a certain point. The developer's working on it, and they developed ahead of where the payments were coming out, and they're like, oh, we need more money. I'm not rich. I literally, cash out part of my 401k to get the product to that point. Long story short, come 2020, after going through a successful accelerator program here in the Hudson Valley that helped me kind of retool some of my ideas, kind of rehone on some of the things I was definitely focused on, rebranded to Q from eQuity. The eQuity brand actually still technically is there. The business is still eQuity, but the product itself is Q. So coming to 2020, raised money. Thanks so much. I had Joe Bryant, who was one of my first $5,000 investors, along with all the other people that had contributed. I was able to get my code, and by complete luck, I actually ran into two developers who I hope I'm here now. I now got 19 viewers, and I hope they're here right now. Tony, my senior developer in New Jersey, and John, my junior developer in Florida. They came on board in a part-time status. We started looking over things, and let's just say we cursed the code. And thanks to them, I want to dare say 70% or maybe even more of the code on the back end has been either wholesale changed, modified, massage, whatever your soup du jour word of the day would be. And that got us now to where the April release was. As I'm going over here looking at my chats, I wondered where you went. Yeah, I've been doing so much between COVID, doing my radio show and all that, trying to raise money, trying to focus on three things. I still have my IT career, still of course DJing. I've already had 2 gigs for the year, and of course trying to get Q out the door. When am I going to envision premium being operable? We'll talk about that in a little bit. And Tony, who's on chat, that is my lead developer. Again, I couldn't just appreciate Tony and John. They're amazing minds that have really walked through the mud of all the code and everything. And they have just been an absolute great contribution to it. So everybody who likes this program, you better throw on comments, thank you, John, thank you, Tony, because they have definitely worked their asses off to get where things are. Am I going to provide lifetime technical support with your base package? All right, so let's talk base for starters. So what you're seeing right now, this is Q Essentials. And for those who don't know what Essentials vision was supposed to be in the first place, was I was thinking of this originally a low-cost solution for people to be able to come in and do some basics. It's not going to be the full-fledged analytics and automation, but I had this idea of trying to get lower use customers, people who are coming from paper, spreadsheets, who are using potentially some programs that are out there, but they're not utilizing them that well. They don't have necessarily many gigs that they're working on, but whatever the case is, this light version. And as time went on, we really started debating the idea of making it free. And that's where we're at now. Essentials is going to be free. Now, from the support perspective, as somebody just asked, there's definitely, so kind of backing this up, one of the key components of Q is going to be quality technical support. I know a lot of platforms that are out there, some of them are better than not, but a lot of them really struggle with answering questions, with providing solutions that people need. And I've always taken the mindset that Essentials, Premium, whatever the product ends up being, that technical support is a big key thing. Now, naturally, with the free version versus paid, there will be some additional focus, of course, on the premium, probably more so in the regards of feature sets. Where are things going to be kind of shaped? Where are some of these better ideas coming from? But this is not to say that I'm not going to be paying attention to the Essentials crowd either. I want to make this product that anybody can use, and not just DJs. Those that need a refresher. Q is focused on the entire events industry, be it weddings, be it clubs, be it ultimately down the road concerts and things like that. Things that ultimately need some type of management of your business, some type of management of a date, management of an event, management of clients. So all this needs to be kind of focused in this 2-tier setup, but there definitely is going to be some level of technical support. Now, as I ramp up, my big vision of the company is to have staff that are focused specifically on customer support, whether that's ingestion into the company, people migrating over to, fielding technical questions. I'm always going to be in the capacity of that, of course, but I do envision other people being in that capacity as well. Check over here on the questions. Middle of the wedding season, so I haven't had a chance. Yeah, the one thing I was really hoping, and of course this was part and due to the mess of code that we've had to deal with over time, that naturally dates that I was hoping we could make, we kept on finding significant enough issues that we're like, we got to make sure that the core of this is right before it launches. So it did ultimately open up to an alpha group. I want to say the initially first 5 people, we expanded that. I think we're at 33, 35 now. and you know, providing great feedback for for everything that it is. A lot of the feedback has either been suggestions of what premium features I already have kind of on the plates, some minor tweaks and all that. Vinny, I know he sunk his teeth into this and he provided a ton of feedback. I really have to appreciate all the effort that he was able to put in and taking a look. Even things that are slightly off by a pixel, I care about these things. And when you're knee deep in trying to get all this, and of course from me, all the other aspects, and of course with Tony and John trying to make sure that the core operation is working well, things can definitely slip. Even the slightest change can make something kind of go out of whack. So I always appreciate anybody that provides feedback to it. For those who are in the alpha group, there is an upvote link that's in there that people are providing that. And we'll continue either that or some other similar system as we go full beta and then beyond that. Vinny says OCD. I appreciate your OCD. I'm very OCD too. Part of my problem by far is looking at this for as long as I have, for as many years. This initial concept and look is almost 4 years old, really. This was born in 2017 when I came up with some of the new ideas with the skins, and then the original coders went ahead and came and changed that up. So those little tweaks I truly, truly appreciate. Mark's using DJEP now. How easy will it be to convert to Cue? So, and this goes for any platform, DJ Event Planner, Honeybook, 17 Hats, Dubsado, yada, yada, yada. This isn't going to be as simple as just a straight one-to-one migration of old data into new. Now, I will say that I feel confident that anybody could step into the platform, even as is right now, and figure it out pretty simply. The very first concept I've always tried with Cue is Apple simple. Make it simple, make it that things don't seem confusing. Try not to throw a whole bunch of text and everything in front of people that overwhelms them. You condense things, you make it simple, you make it digestible. And that's always been a key. Because of that, there's a lot of different design within Cue compared to all the other platforms. There isn't a single platform out there right now that has this design. And when I talk this design, I'll actually dive into a couple things here. For instance, looking at the contacts and vendors, you'll see these are our vendors that are in the system right now. And this is purposeful. Same thing with venues. I want, as we collaborate with all these professionals, photographers, videographers, bands, caterers, the works, that this is a framework, a model for everybody to work in. So the ultimate goal is as we build this out, as we get past the DJ phase of really massaging it, really getting this platform to really, really hum very well. The next step is going to the vendors, all the other vendors, the venues, and getting them, meeting their data needs, what their specific needs are as things go for, photographers, for instance, they need, beautiful displays of, photos and whatnot that they need to send to their customers. This absolutely could be a platform for that if everything kind of fits in properly and, I get all the feedback. I was actually talking to one extraordinarily great photographer here in the Hudson Valley. Actually, I happen to be doing her wedding next year as well. And, this is what I want to do. I want to find the best, people in the industry, across the industry, to provide that feedback of smart workflow, of trying to address what these other platforms that are out there, what they're not addressing, and finding those ways that works essentially universally. That we all have universal problems. Lead acquisition and management alone, everybody in this industry has a problem with that. Even with the best routines, even with the best workflows, there's always something that slips by. There's always some way to make the process better. There's always some way to make it more efficient. And that's what I'm shooting for. So, this product will continuously morph, adding, more of these vendor groups in here. you'll actually see, hopefully soon, I'm actually working on this personally myself, ingesting a massive vendor and venue database in the system. And then as all these professionals come in, if they are not in the system, they'll put in their information and they're done. But if they exist in the system, they'll be claiming their business. And you'll actually see, when a business is claimed, we'll go back to page 1 here, you already see that, a lot of people are putting in their logos. This will be one of the key indicators that they have claimed their business, because only they can add logos into this. But if I change my phone number, if I add services or anything like that, that will be reflected in here. It's something we won't have to manage anymore. And I know for me, this is a real pain point of communicating, with all the other groups that I'm working with. I need to make sure that information is accurate and all that, and that will be, definitely prevalent in here. In addition, those events that we manage, all those people are added into those events, and ultimately this is a platform where we're all collaborating on the same event. And there's a whole level of security to make sure, the people that aren't supposed to be in here, they won't be able to see it, of course, and whatnot. But this is to create that ease of use. If, this one account, I made a little planning account as a part of a tester. If I wasn't part of the system, ultimately, when, this is kind of flushed out as premium, I wanted to send an invitation to come in. I want to offer, say 2, 3, 4 events for them to test the system out in its full potential. If they don't like it, they can just use the free, platform. But if they do like it, and that's why I hope that they're enticed to stay in here, they're now part of the system. Go back to some more questions. I should go up to a couple here. Yeah, Caleb uses about 7 spreadsheets, Dropbox document that I invite my clients to. Point of Dropbox, you'll see this ultimately soon. Actually, this forms is now called documents, if I'm not mistaken. It's moved over here to the right, and this is a Dropbox-like experience. So this will also be for free and premium. Free, of course, you'll be limited to the amount of docs that you can have in there and sizes, but I want to be able to, if say, there's something in the system that isn't capturing what you need and you have it in a specific form or whatnot, you'll be able to deposit those documents in this platform. And how many of them that you can see out there that does this for free if you're going for essentials. And I personally use spreadsheets still. Truth be told, I still use a competing platform to do some of the automation, since this isn't fully built out for that yet. I'm not afraid to say that, but once we get the automation aspect in here, which is a key goal to go for premium, that's my cue to switch over. Let's see. You are the target of Q Essentials. We all are the target of Q Essentials, hopefully. Even Essentials, for people who, I actually know people who use a combination of platforms. Actually, there's 2 people I talked to today use 3 different platforms to manage different aspects of their events. So there is still some potential of even those who have more complex situations and all that, they could still leverage Essentials to a significant degree. And then naturally, as Essentials builds up on capabilities and all that, they can start to shed some of the other platforms. Let's see. Jason, will it be like Vibo? So Vibo is a whole different animal. And so Vibo, for those who don't know, is more, it's a little bit of a planning tool per se, but definitely far more in the music management side. Now, Q is absolutely going to have the ability to add and remove songs from the list. And actually, I'm going to go super old school here for a second. This is way back 2016 when I initially did up this wireframe. Actually, it was like late 2015, because I just want to show you this one thing. So this is one of the next big pieces. This will definitely be in premium, and hopefully this will be in premium 1.0 if we're all lucky. Priorities are definitely going to be focused on certain aspects. This is definitely one of those ones I would like to focus on. This is the combined timeline. Now, what this ultimately allows, this is all going to be template based. This is also only for premium. This is for right now, not going to be for essentials. I definitely need different significant aspects to draw people over from Essentials to Premium. And given that we have Dropbox like interactivity that they'll be able to use in Essentials, the hope is, oh, I really like this Premium feature, let's switch over to Premium. This is all going to be a templatized timeline based off the type of event that you're doing. So in this case, this is a wedding ceremony and reception. So I have all these listed as particular milestones, and the forms are segmented inside each one of those milestones. I have found, especially with the competing platform that I use right now, I have always, for years, segmented my my forms, doing it by number, like step 1, ceremony, step 2, this, step 3, and so on. It's just the way it sorts properly. I have found that reducing those pieces into manageable chunks, like a client sees this, and this is an element that the client will see. This is their data entry that they'll be putting in. They won't have access for this yet. This will still be down the road before the full client experience is pressed out. But this is ultimately something similar that they'll see. They'll answer these questions. These questions will be by default available as part of the template, and then you can choose the template, add questions, remove questions, add sections, remove sections, whatever the case may be. You'll also see music, and my goal for this is to either query the Spotify API, or there's also a musicbrains.org API that I would love to basically just start autotyping and be able to do that. There's some additional things, like I was thinking of some iconography to the left, like if there's a top list or something that we could do something, but I want to make sure, especially because this is far more text heavy, that I want the experience to be very pleasurable, whether it's on mobile, whether it's on tablet or whatnot. This does scale down. Even my old design was always mobile centric first. Is an absolutely critical aspect that this works on phones and tablets, where a lot of competing platforms, either if they've tried and they didn't do so well, or they just never tried at all. In addition, one idea that I have had, and this might not be necessarily in the version 1, but hopefully as time goes on, is you'll be able to ad hoc some changes as these forms are presented. So let's say you have this template that's in here. We have, let's say, another music processional, let's say they're doing 2 songs. There'll be a way that if you hover over a certain area, you can add or remove sections or questions or whatnot right into the form itself. So you start off with the template, and as the event materializes, as it matures, you might find some very specific need where you have to add or remove things. So that's the goal of this. And again, the timelines would be specific to the event type. So if you have a concierge, if you have a bat mitzvah, if you have a barbecue, whatever, a corporate, whatever it happens to be, you can construct these timeline and these timeline forms to confine to the type of information you need to carry. And this carries on beyond the DJ aspect. Once we start tackling things like, let's say, photographers, this could be questionnaires like, do you want, family photos? What kind of groups who's part of these groups? All this information could be pre-filled out in these forms and then ultimately managed as such. So had to go back in time a little bit on that one just to show you that. That's actually, we have the data in here in this timeline. And just to jump into this timeline for a second, because it's a very important piece of this, the arrival time, start time, and end time, which you also saw in the old form, this is also the completely in sync with other elements in the event that uses the same time. And I know one headache that I've had over the years is, you set the start and end time. Let's say it's 5 to 10, and then the clients, that's a year before when you're planning. The first initial stages of planning. Once you get into more details, they change it on you. It's like 5:30 to 10:30, wherever it happens to be, and it could be that in the contract it still shows that time, but now in the timeline that differs. The beauty of this is when you put in this information, this is now synced not only into the HUD of when you're going to be arriving, when the start and the end time of that event is, but is also reflective of the time information that's set in the contract. Now, something I have not, that we have not built in yet, and it's something that I believe I have as a ticket in there, is ultimately if that does change, I want to be able to make sure that everybody acknowledges that change. So I can envision some type of alert that will tick off and all that, but that is a little bit more of a future thing. That's an enhancement. I want to get core functionality down first before we start adding the nice tweaks that are really going to make this a really, really, really just dense and powerful platform. If you notice here too, if you don't have a contract signed, it's not going to tell you how much it is because, hey, the contract's not signed yet. I'm going to go back to the questions here for a second. Let's see. Oh, back to Vibo for a second, because Vinny did bring that up. I have no problem with the potential that we could do some type of API integrations with third parties. I do want to limit those to make sure that our experience is as robust and not dependent on third parties as possible. Now, there's certain things we'll never be able to get away from, say like payment gateways. We're not going to be a payment gateway ourselves, so we always will have to rely, whether it's a PayPal, a Square, or something of that effect. But for other things, I definitely will consider. It's definitely, I know for Vibo, I've definitely had a few requests for that. But we have to see how it all fits into the platform, making sure there's no real big crossover, like we're not stepping on each other's toes, and making sure that the experience by far, the first thing is always the experience. If the experience can be done well, if the developers also feel that this is something that is achievable, because they're always like, I would never want to go to Tony and John and it's like, hey, we're going to build this. It's like, we are a team, we collaborate on this. So if something just seems too far off or something, I'm not afraid to say, what, we'll find different methods to achieve the same solution. That's something that is better for us to build. So just be mindful. It's like, by all means, have those requests. Let us know where your pain points are and what you need to do. But ultimately, in the end, we do have to make decisions to get things where we need to be. All right, I'm actually going to take a drink before we continue on. All right, let's see. It'll be better than Vibo, but it's less expensive. Yeah, definitely less expensive. Won't it work with conjunction with Vibo, or will replace a lot of Vibo's functionality? That was Joshua. And again, I don't use Vibo, but I have seen some of the interface and all that. Again, Vibo is definitely much more of a music management piece about an event. For my purposes, I think just being able to capture the songs that the couple wants is very good for me. It's plenty enough for me. I do know some people that want additional aspects where something that like Vibo kind of comes into play. So for some people, this could be just a wholesale replacement. Others, it might need to be kind of side by side. Let's see. Then he's like, yeah, it's its own system. You won't need Vibo. But again, Vibo will have definite features. Just want to focus on that. Sorry, I'm a little far behind on these chats. Will there be a functionality to import data from Honeybook? So that was from Mara. And as I mentioned a little bit earlier in the broadcast, I definitely plan to do historical imports into the system. It's very critical for me for the platform that I've used for many, many, many years to get as much of that information in as possible. The gotcha in this is no other platform quite works the same way as Q does, at least when it comes into the relationship of the companies and whether it's the venues and the vendors and kind of tying all that into financial information. Ours is definitely far more integrated, and with that, there is this complexity that other systems wouldn't have. So it's already a little bit of a challenge importing data into a system to begin with. But for ours, it will ultimately need to be a couple passes. For instance, let's say you have this list of vendors that are in the system. Well, it has to match up with ours in the system so all those links exist. Same thing goes with the venues. Same thing goes potentially with the clients. The client might already be imported. Somebody might have already put that information in there at some point in the history. So it's being able to do all those checks and making sure everything's tied in. Now, in concept, it definitely can work. It is by far a much more challenging prospect, but it's absolutely on my radar. Like I said, I want to make sure all my historical data is captured in here. So we have to find good and clever ways. There might even come to a point where we don't interlink some of it. We might have to flag that information as historical, so we won't have as much analytical data that we can process off of that. But we have to figure where those roads basically kind of cross each other. I will say it will definitely be a while down the road before we address this. Our next big steps, which I will kind of talk a little bit more on, will be a couple more features that we're working on for Essentials, and then working on a couple core features to get Premium out and everybody being able to get into the system in a paid perspective or a free perspective. Let's see. Music planning with links, all the major music platforms too. See, so that was Joshua asked about music planning and linking to other platforms. Now this, I have a little bit of concern of linking multiple platforms, because once again, you are dealing with multiple different experiences, and I think, frankly, everyone I've seen so far have been pretty horrible. I want a very clean, consistent. So if we were to ever use a platform to say play a song that's in the interface so they can kind of sample it, it would be stuck most likely to one platform. And in that case, Spotify might be the best solution for that, because I want to bring in that data that if you can autocomplete and bring it in, that might be the best all-around solution. But one thing I definitely don't want to do, and I know Vibo does this as well, that you can pool YouTube. We all know the complexity of copyright in YouTube, and I don't want to facilitate the bad practice, if you will, of, hey, I just want this, this one YouTube song that is rife with copyright issues, and be able to bring that in as an enabler to it. So if we ever do music playback, it will most likely be tied to one platform, and if it is, it'll be one that's hopefully fully integrated with the remaining of the experience. Again, user experience, both from a business perspective and a client perspective, is paramount. And actually on that, I am going to cough for a second, so I'm going to mute, and give me 1 second here. All right, so let's see. Dave, I assume you will have a feature that allows DJs to save different and various forms, for example, wedding inquiries, general events. Yes, so part of this would ultimately be, as we kind of scroll down into admin, there will be your packages and your add-ons, and each package I would envision, this has not been fully planned out yet. This is still something that will be in the works for later on. But tying in potential forms, whether it's the linkage of a form or we're building a form in here, something to that effect, each package will ultimately be tied in to that form, and you'll be able to do multiple forms. But again, that will be a premium feature. For free, I think one form might be the best option in this case, or at least with the contract side. But we will work out some of those details, but will absolutely be part of it. Let's see. How can Q compete with other major platforms? That's Caleb. So first and foremost, Essentials is going to be free. There's just no getting around it. There is now one platform that just recently announced, literally the day after Q Alpha, the very first version went out. They announced a free version, but their free version is something like you get to do one contract every quarter or something like that. It was like a prohibitively ridiculous set of requirements that they have in here. So from a competing standpoint, there's two platforms. I wouldn't even say two platforms. There's two access levels, because this is all the same platform. Essentials will give you, like what you're seeing right now here, this is Essentials, being able to add events, being able to send out contracts from that event, being able to show where in the progress you are in that event, tying into basic ledger information, having drop zone, adding tasks, notes, and not just towards the event. You can actually add global ones at that, adding mileage, logging phone calls and appointments. All this stuff is built into Essentials. Adding an image to a couple so you know who that couple is, or a corporate, whatever it happens to be. This is all free. I don't know what else more that you could compete with that. More importantly, though, when we get to premium, my goal, like just for instance, we're showing the timeline and the full solution of what premium is going to offer. Nobody has that. My big vision of this is creating solutions that are either difficult or even impossible in some cases for the competition to be able to build out and compete with, but further making it easy to use. I don't know how frustrated the current platform that I have been using to manage my events, just how cumbersome it is. I'm an IT professional of 25 years. And I figured out a lot of it. I've actually had people pay me to show them how I use that platform. That shouldn't have to be. You shouldn't have to rely on third-party tools, whether it's Zapier or whatnot, to be able to just perform basic functions. This is not ideal for a platform to have to suffer through to be able to use. So ease of use, a free tier to be able to access, premium solutions that a person in the industry is building for the industry. That's another thing. There's one platform out there that I'm aware of right now that was built pseudo. It was a wife-husband team that built a platform. They were, she was a photographer. That became, a particular platform. But they never really even addressed a lot of the pain points in the industry. I'm here to address that. I experienced these pain points, and I kept on hearing these same things from all these other, competing platforms for years upon years. Even as this is kind of, taken so long to get to market, other, some of these platforms didn't exist when I started. And when they came on the market, it is, I don't want to call it lipstick on the pig, but it kind of is, because they're doing the same exact methods. Yes, there might be some massaging, some better looking things. Some have a little bit better mobile experience and whatnot, but they're not addressing real pain points in this industry. They certainly aren't addressing mine. If they did, I would be on those platforms. I would have not spent this kind of time and effort building something like this if somebody had addressed it. And that's what I'm here for. I'm here to listen to where, what are these pain points that people are experiencing. Are there best practices already built in that I could point them to? It's like, hey, here's a great way to do this. Or, hey, your way is better. Let's incorporate this into the platform. I think that's where my competitive advantage is on this. So why switch to Q? Yeah, that's Caleb again. What about integration? Google Calendar, Zapier, QuickBooks, etc. So as I touched on easier a little bit earlier, I want to limit what we integrate with, but I want to make sure what we do integrate with works really well. So yeah, payment gateways, that's already a given. I can definitely envision QuickBooks, the structure behind this right now. Matter of fact, if we go here, actually this is kind of a fresh install that I have on this, on my particular instance. I don't have a ledger really built out on this, but you'll see, let's say it's not an event listing. As I mentioned before, you can add expenses, tasks, and all that aren't related to an event, or it could be potentially related to an event. Okay, Express. If you ever look at the categories and subcategories on these are all the major categories that for tax purposes are legit. Like, insurance, there's no subcategory insurance because it is just insurance, advertising, so on and so on. The goal of this is, if you don't need QuickBooks, if you are, say, a solo op and you pull in a certain amount a year and you're not paying paying invoices out or paying employees, to a great extent where you are leveraging QuickBooks. I want this to be able to be a good interface to be able to utilize. I can definitely see exporting this out. I know they do have an API as well, so that is a ticket that is in the system for a bit down the road. I actually do have a big financial, I won't call it an overhaul, but a major enhancement that down the road we'll be adding. And I have a lot of features, literally years of features that I have. Some of these are very, very dense and complex build outs. Some of these are far more simpler. So a lot of these are going to be like, what are going to be working on this quarter or this month or this week, whatever it happens to be. But I do, again, but for those other third parties, if they don't quite fit the bill or whatnot, I definitely want to make sure that they hit all the check marks to be able to incorporate. I am going to take a drink. Give me one moment, please. All right. So let's see. I use BeatTunes. Hello, all. Yeah, this is 16 minutes ago, so I'm sorry I'm falling so behind on chats right now. Are you going to do Stripe for credit cards? So definitely PayPal, likely Stripe and Square. We just have to look at the APIs and just see how difficult they will to be incorporate into the system. But I do not ultimately see a major problem with incorporating multiples. But again, we just have to really investigate. But we definitely will have at least one, if not more, payment options out there. Oh, thank you, Brendan, for actually answering that too. See, I didn't even get that far down. Bible uses links. We're talking Bible again. Beatport. If I start building out my archive data and future events and essentials now, will there be an easy way to have that transition into premium without loss of data? Excellent question, Brian. So, when we initially announced Alpha to be out there, one of the caveats was that data could disappear, and that was definitely much more a concern of the very early on stage. Like, did we miss something big? Was something going to have to wholesale change in design that could potentially result in data loss? I am definitely going to be talking to this with Tony and John and get some more finality on this. But I think now that we've progressed this far into it and things have really kind of ironed out, I believe this is just going to simply just turn from alpha to the beta to the full version. I don't see any potential data loss at this point, but it's a very good, very critical question, especially as you're an early tester. So hold off on that for a second. I will answer that most likely on chat probably tomorrow as I discuss. And that's it. Oh, it looks like I kind of blipped for a second there on video. So let's see. It is big of a Frankenstein monster. Yeah, this can easily, any platform can turn into Frankenstein. And that's one of the things that I want to avoid with Q. I want to make sure that everything it's actually just like my DJ business. Everything that I do, is it purposeful? Does it add value to it? Does it add complexity? If it adds complexity, can it be done in such a way that makes it easy, maybe not as easy as it was like the day before, but still easy to use? A perfect example of this is when we launched Venue Intelligence. So we're gathering a lot of potential information about a venue, and this was just added a week and a half or so ago. I wanted, and I've thought of this for a long time, of associating specific DJ critical information about a venue. For instance, is it trailer accessible? Is it card accessible? Is there power at the reception? Is there power at the ceremony? Is there power at the cocktail? Is there a decibel limit? There's actually probably even far more questions that we could answer in this, but I wanted to kind of condense this at least some. As you add this information, you can also add notes in it. And I'm not going to add this because this is technically live in this regard, but we have, yes, it can be trailer friendly. Yes, it can be car friendly, but let's say one step that you have to go through. But this now gives a wealth of information to other DJs who might have not performed at this event. So this is all great things like power at reception. do you have a long enough power lead? Is this something going to be difficult to deal with? So I want people to be able to aggregate this information and be able to disseminate that to all the users. This is one of the benefits of the design itself. Because this is all centralized, for a better lack of term, now we can all contribute to that information. So that's a huge aspect. But here's one of those challenging things of how do you get data in such a way that's not overwhelming, that is informative, and in this case, as you add information, if there's like some additional details, you'll be able to click onto that and even see more detail on it. So this way, it's just one click away. And that's kind of my philosophy of all this. It's just one click away. Let's see. So I should begin loading in now. Again, this is completely up to you. I will definitely chime in on the early testing group and whatnot if we're all comfortable with this is going to be live data. We do have backups of data happening and all that as well, but I want to circulate that with the developers just to make sure everybody is on the same page. I've added stuff, but in alpha, so it's constantly changing, not recommended for live use. So there are definite changes that are happening, but as of right now, from the structure side of the equation, there hasn't been anything super significant that should cause any problems. There will actually be a big change. Matter of fact, you'll see it right in here when you're looking at the contact list. You'll see some phone numbers that are done in this particular format and some phone numbers that are in the system before that has parens in it. This was all thanks to the addition of our international capabilities. So we wanted to make sure that we could add more than just US people. In that regard, we made a judgment call that phone formats needed to change in order for it to be fully supported the way we needed to. But all this will ultimately be updated in the background when we do that. So there'll be some background updates that happen or whatnot that shouldn't affect you. But just again, be mindful. We are still alpha right now. There's still always the potential, but I'm growing more confident by the day that we're in a generally really good spot for this. Joshua, attention to detail, building this from a working DJ perspective, having elements to help track financials. I'm excited. I'm excited too. I will not lie. I'm customer one of this. A lot of this was born off of where are my pain points? Do other DJs and other professionals share my pain points? And can that be remedied on a platform? And that's always been the goal of this. Brian asked, do you envision any floor plan? Absolutely. So floor plan implemented in Premium. Not only is it going to be floor plan, there's an actual icon, if you might have seen from some of my old screenshots, there's an actual floor planner that I have in the events section. Now that's been removed for now, but the goal is a ploppable interface that you bring in the DJ booth, typical cake location. A venue can plan out what a normal scenario of the venue is, put in all their dimensions and everything, put in where PowerPoints are, and that will be saved to the venue. So just like venue intelligence, information like that venue information is also publicly available. So all somebody has to do is put it in once. They plop in everything that's in there, and it's there. Now, planners, the venue itself, they can create multiple, plans. Like, let's say they have 3 different particular layouts, and then the couple or whatnot, they're presented with that particular layout that they're going to be using. You'll be able to see that. That's the real beauty of the platform and the way the design of the platform allows. But absolutely, floor plans is definitely on the radar on this. I cannot promise dates, though. Again, the way the feature set is, some of the core things have to be addressed first. 2 of those core pieces for us going Premium is automation and the combined timeline. Those are our 2 major focuses as we go live for Premium. And then once all that's kind of massaged and panned out, then it's feature. Again, we got a lot in the churn. So let's see. Yeah, Vinny mentions that this Essentials is the base. You got to unlock and you get premium. You are exact. And that's going to be, again, a beauty of this. God forbid, we had 2020 happen. Say you're on a yearly subscription and everything goes to hell again. You could downgrade to Essentials for a short period of time and then jump right back in, if that was the case. Matter of fact, I wouldn't have been surprised if I had launched by then that I might have just, eased some of the cash coming in to try to help as many people out because I was hurting just like everybody else. But you won't lose that data. That's the beauty of this. So again, one of the strategies of this is if somebody's using this in an Essentials capacity and they're inputting all this data, let's say it takes them a year and they convert. They'll immediately see when some of these new features like analytics is there, the dashboard is there, all these additional things, all their historical information is still interlocked into this. It will still be digestible within the system. It will still be processable to be able to use throughout. And again, I hope that we're able to do that with some historical information. It's not, again, it is not going to be a super easy thing, but it is something that I would like to have happen. Let's see. And I hope my connection, I'm actually gone 7 minutes behind on the chat, and my connection died. Hopefully my connection didn't die. Let's see what else we got. Frankenstein Monster is referring to. Yeah, we'll go with that. But you know what? That can be, the whole Frankenstein situation, that can be any platform. Any platform, if it's not well planned out, if they're at least trying to add features, but they don't add it in a strategic way, that of course can cause more harm than good in the end. But also some of the opposite of that is some of these platforms just don't update at all. And so it's like, okay, do we deal with Frankenstein? Do we deal with stagnant? Hopefully I provide a far better solution to the two. All right. I got so frustrated with the look, GUI, based complexity of other systems, so I just did my own on a spreadsheet and got rid of all the extra noise. Yeah, I know a lot of people who have tried different platforms, tried multiple different platforms, and abandoned all of them, or they stuck with one but are not happy with it. Way back in 2016, when I was really kind of planning this all out and considering investing money into the building of it. I threw a survey out there, and it was like 57% were frustrated with the current platforms they had, and that wasn't even including the spreadsheet users and all that. These were people who are in the current system and were frustrated with it. So you can just imagine even more that were. Dale said, "Yay, international!" Yeah, was not planning international, but here's a perfect example of how we adapt as necessary. There were a number of alpha users that were not US based. And, we started kind of looking at, is this something we want to add right now? It was going to be planned for later on. And we had to make some judgment calls. Like my original vision for international was not just, international addresses and phone numbers, but, do we do any currency conversion? Do we do VAT taxes and dealing with all that? And there's so many logistical things with it. But ultimately we decided, we'll do this in a stepped progress of adding, say, phone number, address support. We actually have a couple currency options that are, listed in there. But then as time goes on, when we can readdress it, we'll add some more depth into what international support will do. Brian asks, will email message sequences be easy to create in automation? My goal is absolutely easy. That is my theme of this. Everything needs to be as easy as possible in this platform. So my, and some people know this, but just kind of readdress this. In the step progress meter, what I'm hoping is going to happen is as you click on each particular step, that it will launch a particular workflow sequence. Now that workflow sequence is most likely going to be in the admin section, and then you'll build out what you need to do in admin, like, hey, I want a pop-up on this to happen, or I want a status to change, I want to add an employee to this. Whatever those steps are, we'll of course need to make sure those are captured and available in it. But basically, is building out those. Now, by default, I want to templatize this so there's an initial template that's already there, so some people can just get up and go. But if they really want to massage this, if they have some very specific workflow, I want those to be editable, and I want that to be easily editable. And I really think all the other platforms that are out there are some that do it better than others. There are some that are just horribly challenging to be able to build out. Part of the reason why a lot of people who try them abandon it is because they can't understand it. They can't grasp the complexity of it. So everything that we do here, I want to try to make as simple as possible. So I'll always say to everybody, as you're using the platform, from now, a year from now, 2 years, 5 years from now, that if there are elements that are difficult to understand, that are difficult to accomplish your task, I want to hear that feedback. I want to be able to say, is there a better way to do this? Is there an easier way to address this? Is there a wholesale change that needs to happen, or maybe just a small tweak? I want to make sure and invite those opportunities for change, because I think that just makes the platform much more solid. Let's see. So Dale asks, if I can ask, when we put in our events, the only people that can see the personal information for our couples is us. So, yes and no. And I'm going to kind of try to qualify this some. So part of this platform is to enable collaboration. And this is not enabled right now, but the ultimate goal is as we add the particular vendors into the system, one element I want to be able to ensure that we share, that we can collaborate on, is the timeline. So the ultimate vision in here, and we're still kind of trying to hone this in as the product matures, is to be able to bring in information and compare between the other vendors. In my original design, I had like a little checkbox which you could turn on and off different elements. So this way, if you want to see the photographer's timeline, you'll be able to see that, vice versa. From a security perspective, the people that are going to be seeing this is only the people that are involved with this event. We're trying our absolute hardest to make sure nobody can exploit the system for nefarious purposes or anything like that. There's a lot of security that's applied to this to ensure that happens. And the goal is, again, security, but also enabling collaboration. So there are definitely elements that nobody else would ever see, like say your financials and stuff like that. That is for your eyes only. And same thing even goes for things like your employees versus say your accountant, if you happen to have an accountant, versus yourself. There'll be levels of security that are applied via that person's account information that will allow them to see certain things and allow them to not see certain things. So just be mindful that the nature of the platform is to enable collaboration, and some elements will be shared, but other elements is purely in your purview. So let's see. Event platforms on the same. See, people are answering some of these questions for me. I love it. For branding and matching of the website, do you envision offering a service to personalize? This one's a real challenge. I'm going to take a drink here. So, personalization, aka white labeling. My thought on this is going to be most likely not, or at least to only a certain degree. Part of Q is a platform. This is not just your domain. This is the domain of the clients. This is the domain of other vendors, the venue, myself. This is a platform for all of us to share, to virally get out there and invite people to come in on. Now, this is not to forego that. I could see, swapping out the Q logo and having, potential your logo up here with like a powered by Q or something like that. Ultimately, as the product matures, I could see potentially some minor color changes. So you could change maybe the sidebar or something like that to match more coloring. But I don't want to wholesale change this for a few reasons. One is uniformity. I want the experience of, let's say let's plan this out actually a few years. So the users actually are in the system. they're looking at their 4 or 5 vendors that are in here, and as they're swapping out between the 4 or 5 vendors, you got 3 of them that look the standard Q look, and then one that looks drastically different. That could be problematic. So there's some room that there could be potential customization, but I think it's going to be within the margins. It's not going to be a wholesale, blank slate kind of thing, and that is purposeful. Again, the goal of this is to make the experience as universal as possible. Josh and this was 5 minutes ago, he's got to head off for another meeting. I appreciate, Josh, if you happen to still be in. Thank you for clarifying. No problem at all. So that was actually quite a few questions. We're at 8 o'clock p.m. East Coast time. Definitely feed some more questions if you would like. Want to give a couple things that are going to be coming up. So we are working on 2 major features right now for Essentials. This is client visibility. If one thing you've noticed in here, clients was not listed in here. We purposely took it out because the structure of the old client, of the old coders, they just didn't do the job that needed to be done. So this is being completely redone, and part of this is this complexity of visibility and all that. We're trying to envision, as the couple are added in. Let's say they're a wedding couple. What happens if they change? What happens if they initially came in as a party? They misidentified it in the system, and they turned out to be a wedding, or a bat mitzvah became a bar mitzvah, or whatever it happens to be. There's more complexity than just flipping the switch and letting it be. In my system, and the system that John and Tony have so graciously been able to help out on this. There's a lot of back end things that actually change. Being able to identify, the fiance's account to be able to attach the fiance. Well, that drops if it's a different type of event, or vice versa. If it turns into a wedding, we need to capture that information. So there's a lot more things than just simply, just flipping a switch. So basically, this required a complete, reconcept of that. That's being worked on right now. Drop zone is being worked on right now. And I do believe with those 2 elements, we might have a couple, small bugs and tweaks to kind of work on from there. But by all intents and purposes, I think at that point we will go open beta, for beyond that point. What date that's going to happen, I will announce. I definitely don't want to plan any dates and unfortunately miss the windows. But they are both being worked on right now. They are not just super simple things, but they will be done. From there, it's really going to be the focus on those 2 premium features. We do, again, have some additional things that we have slated as beta enhancements, and they're mostly smaller stuff. But, the big focus is getting premium out the door. My hope, we got Wedding MBA in November, is I want to hopefully have that well in the bag, so when I get to Wedding MBA, that I can start showing this off to not just the DJs, but everybody else. Is like, hey, we're going to be incorporating photographers and videographers in the near future. We're going to be doing, the wedding venues and the planners in the near future. So the goal of this is, getting us to a really good spot, and just letting those wheels keep on going. The hope also is we'll be doing an additional funding round, potentially either at the end of this year or the very beginning of next year. That will also dictate what some of the speed of this, because we do have additional people we want to hire, of course, marketing and all that other stuff as well. But there's just so many things in store. A couple people know of a really big secret weapon that I have in this that I hope once we get all the vendors in the system, that particular secret weapon will be launched, and I'll save that one for that later time. But there's some really, really big plans for this that I honestly believe that nobody else could ever even come close to competing on the platform. Let's see what else we got. Website integration form. So yes, eventually I do plan to have an API available to be able to ingest a form into the system like you do see with some of the other platforms. So that way, they fill out a couple basic things. Now, one thing that I am contemplating on is this idea of essentially building out an entire event through that API. I've never been comfortable as a business owner doing that. I definitely know that some people enjoy that particular aspect of basically having the couple build things out, they send it out, contracts gets dispatched and is 100% automated. As much as I love automation, I also think there should be some interrupts in the process. That being said, I also want to make sure this is as universal as possible and whatnot. So the initial plan would definitely be just your standard inquiry form. There could eventually be a full build out to be able to do a 100% automated process in it. Again, not my particular sales style and whatnot, but it is something that potentially could be there. I do have it as an issue that, something that we will look at in the future for that larger piece, but for the initial ingestion of that's definitely something that should be doable. Let's see, once I create an event, this is Caleb, I can't figure out how to go back and edit. So you can't figure out how to go to edit it because it's disabled right now. And it's purposely disabled because of a couple of these things. As I mentioned, changing the event type definitely throws a couple weird things into the loop with the way we manage clients and all that. There's also some additional things from the international side that we have to apply and whatnot. So there was a couple aspects that we actually turned the edit off to be able to finish that out. So ultimately, up here in the corner, you will see edit event. It was actually there at one point, and we pulled it for that sake. But you will be able to edit it in the near future. Sorry about that, Caleb. That got you. Vinny says using WordPress, Joomla, etc. plugins and not iframes. Yeah, no iframes. I hate iframes. To hell with iframes. Not going to happen. Well, let's put it this way. I personally won't have it where it broadcasts out an iframe or anything. Somebody could theoretically put it as an iframe on their page. I could definitely see an actual plugin that could work, but to be honest, from an API perspective, it could be something as simply interjecting a single link in there that populates out what the form looks like. So that way also, if you change the form, any of the data form collection on the queue side, that those things could be populated. I know some are literally one-to-one standard form mappings, and then it feeds back to the system. I want to definitely make sure that this is easier. I will say that this is most likely a 1 dot something release. I do not have this as an initial plan for 1.0, mainly because the big focus on that is going to be automation, and not going to lie, trying to get it to work as easy as I hope that it will end up being is going to be a task. And of course have full confidence in Tony and John that they'll be able to do this, but it's not going to be just like a simple 1 week kind of project. It will definitely be an involved project. So between that and the combined timeline, that will both probably be significant projects that will take some time. With that being said, there will be potentials once we go beta that there might not be too many dot releases in between unless they're like little fixes or something like that. And the purpose of that is because of the premium development. Let's see, I asked at night before you said that. But so what else do we got while I'm kind of mumbling here as this is going over for an hour and 8 minutes? I think we did mention we do have a general ledger that's in here. There is on the header, you can see this in mobile, tablet, or desktop. You can add an event, an appointment, a task, an expense, mileage, and note. The beautiful thing with appointment, task, expense, mileage, and note, adding it here is when you do that, it's initially, you can do it as a no event. So this way, if you don't have, it's just company centric, it's not applied to a specific event, you can have it so it's specifically company centric. However, if you happen to not be inside an event, but you know that you just went to a trip to see Evelyn and Steve here, and you can add that in here. Same thing for mileage, same thing for notes. All these have a global aspect that's global for the business, and you also have just a straight event, adding an event. Again, ease of use. One of the things you'll see in here, I can hit save, and that's it. I can literally add a blank event. And part of the reason why is I want to keep the data entry of this as simple as possible. And there are times where I've gotten nothing but just a call. Hey, are you available on such and such a date? Well, let me check. Oh, no, I'm not available. Okay, thanks, bye. Don't have their name. I do have their number. And I would have a source, in that case, phone, and I could just put in those bits of information. One thing that will be changing on this, we're going to be moving source up to the top, because I think it's probably the most universal thing that we can always at least enter in if we're entering some bit of information. So that'll be moved to the top. And one plan that I do have for sourcing is not just selecting, oh, this was a phone lead, oh, this was just a wedding wire or not. But let's say it's a venue. Let's say the venue is what gave you the lead. I want to link it to the venue. So you would ultimately choose, you can see down here, where lead from, expo, all that referred by venue. But I want to have the drop down below that and then be able to add the venue. Same thing with if a DJ is referring you or a past client, I want to be able to associate the information. So now when you're getting into the analytics side of the business, you can see specifically who's giving you the most lead, where those quality sources of information and clients are coming from. I think those are really, really critical pieces. And the whole platform is based off big data mindset. Where can we tie everything in? Where is everything linked? Where can we find and cultivate and harvest this information to our advantage as a business? And again, talking to the specifics of the complexity of bringing in old data, being able to say, this came from a wedding wire advertisement. Well, I am putting in the ledger, wedding wire dollars that I'm spending on advertising. We can now, from an analytical point of view, tie in the two. I can now see what my cost per lead for that particular business, advertisement source is, and what the cost of conversion, pay-per-click, ads, Yelp, whatever you happen to be using, you'll be able to qualify and quantify that information. So this is where the complexity, again, of bringing that old data into the system becomes a little bit more than just a simple dump of data in there. There's always something. So let's see. So you can remember those during the holidays, absolutely. So that's really about it. I'm going to hang on this for a few more to see if there's a few more questions that come up. But again, so big news on this. Some people do know that Essentials is going to be free, but make it known, Essentials is going to be free. Let that information get out there, because surprisingly, over 50% of the DJs that I was talking to over the years, and I've literally kept a list of everyone that I have, use paper or spreadsheets. I was frankly shocked, because I thought it would be more like 20-30%. So there's a substantial amount of people that rely on old school methods. And what I'm hoping with this is, being free becomes a no-brainer to at least try out and all that. But certain elements that are still familiar, like having forms in here, you'll be able to drop, let's say, an Excel sheet, drop a Word doc, drop a PDF, drop an image, having that information that's tied to that event now at least starts becoming a more useful tool. Now they'll be able to say, okay, I've got my docs in here, but now I can visually see where I am with this particular client, so I know where in process things are. And as the platform matures, and I could easily turn on features for Essentials people for a minute and give them kind of like the full-blown experience. It could be like, wow, I didn't know I could do all that. And especially as the system matures and their data matures, as the data accumulates in the system, that just becomes a more useful tool for their business. And again, this tool is so much, but I want one of the big things for this is to aid in not only being able to conduct the event, but be able to run your business in a far more efficient and intelligent way. Nothing, really screams more than a lot of great DJs and other professionals that I've seen that aren't business savvy. I mean, their lot in life is being a damn good DJ or being an excellent photographer or videographer, and they don't know necessarily what ROI is. And it's hard. You have to put on so many hats: social media hat, you have to put on the marketing hat, you have to put on your event hat, you have to put on your sales hat. And what I'm really hoping for this is, as we build in these best practices, as we really refine the product and try to keep it as simple as possible to use, that it just attracts people more and more to really, really sink their teeth into it and understand far more aspects about their business that they would have never known on prior platforms. Client platform. So Mark asks, client platform, what will that look like? Like this. So again, part of this, they won't see, of course, all this. Their step progress meter will not be there, or maybe there'll be like little small meters depending on the pros that they're working with. But the core structure, the core look will be like this. Again, part of this is to create a platform that's inviting and usable for everybody to use. I actually need to go up a little because there was a question from Daryl. Will the analytics be displayed as numbers as well as charts of some kind? Absolutely charts. And just to give, so I'm going to go back a ways here for a minute. This was just part of standard Bootstrap charting, but this is ultimately what the dashboard can look like. Having KPIs, key performance indicators about your business, so you can see where your year-to-date earnings are. You could potentially see how many booked events for the year that you have, what your average pricing is, how many inquiries that you have. You could easily have charts that will show you year over year or month over month where your leads and your contracts are coming in. So you could actually start to see trends. If you have 2 years of data in here and you go back a full year and go back another year and you start going, it's like, wow, things are looking down. Maybe did I stop spending money on advertising? Did did something change? Of course, COVID, that kind of wonks things out. But having that information allows you to start making more informed decisions. You could set yearly goals. Upcoming, so this is definitely a big piece that will definitely be added in some form, is being able to see what's coming up. What's your next steps that are coming up? Did a new lead come in? Do you have an event that's coming up in a couple days? Is there a task that's due, an appointment that's due? Being able to quickly visualize, and what I call it, this is the heartbeat of your business. What's going on now? What's been going on? Is there an alert that's coming up because something wasn't done or a payment was missed or something like that? This is the type of information that you can be fed, so that way you can make, again, informed decisions about your business. Now, this again was the initial, couple years, many years ago actually, of what the dashboard would look like. I can envision seeing some little tweaks and all that. There are some very, very beautiful graphing options that are out there that we will potentially utilize, but this is definitely the path that things would go. Tim says, I believe the data can be exported to plug into your favorite spreadsheet, but the plan is, you got it right. Now, one of the things when we go with premium, or should I say, as premium matures as well, my hope would be to have some interchangeable pieces on this, to have some customization that gives you, let's say, a particular sales indicator might not necessarily be that effective for you, but there could be something that you could apply that gives you more of a relevant heartbeat about your business. The ultimate goal would be able to do some of that level of customization. Now, that definitely won't be on the first iteration of the dashboard, maybe not even the second iteration, but it's definitely something that would be in the works. Daryl asked what the process of onboarding would look like. Very good question. So early on, naturally, it's going to be a little rough because it is just me and 2 developers. But the ultimate goal on this, and so I want to tell you what the 1-year goal would be. So as a customer would come in, one of the first thing, they'll be actually assigned somebody that will work with them to figure out, do they have data that they want to incorporate? Hopefully by that point we have found our solutions to do the data mappings and be able to ingest the old data. So to be able to work with them to be able to get that data in, to work with them for, say, the first couple weeks to make sure that if, and again, I'm really hoping that this interface is as simple to use so it's, it doesn't invite too many questions about it. But if there are, if people have questions about doing certain tasks, I want them to be able to contact somebody about that. Now, there of course will always be a community of people. I definitely have some people who've chimed in here that have helped out, and I really hope that will continue as I find champions of the platform that are willing to, of course, help out when just general questions are being asked and whatnot. But part of the onboarding process is trying to make sure that specific things are addressed. To ask questions, what are your pain points? Kind of, like what we're doing here. I want to see and understand what those businesses are going through, because ultimately there could be something that's missed here that I have not, discovered in many of my talks with other people. So I want to invite those questions and all that. I want to invite critique on the platform. I am not above somebody saying, this isn't working well. Well, why not? I want to hear why it's not working well for that person and try to figure out if it's a simple user mistake, that they're not understanding what the platform is, or maybe there's something wholly missing that could be something revolutionary for the platform. We just don't know. But I want to always invite those questions and all that. But the ultimate initial goal would be, basically it'd be me or one of the two devs, most likely me, to help you, get you on board. The initial phase will probably not be data ingestion into the system just because of the level of complexity. But again, given where time, money, and effort is, that could come sooner than later. I again know when we get to that point where I'm fully ingested into the system, I still want to get my old data into here. But that's also not saying that we couldn't just dump the data off your current platform, whichever one you happen to be using, switch over to Q, and then as the weeks and months kind of mature to where we get to those data ingestion points, that's an option that could end up being on the table. Good question, Daryl, by the way. All good questions by everybody. I really want to thank everybody for putting together so many good questions and insights during this. I really am appreciative of that. But that's about it in a nutshell. I've been going on for almost an hour and a half. I know some people must be sick of hearing me talk by now. I'm just going to quickly scroll through, make sure there's nothing else that I've missed. You can. I did it. Yeah, that's about it so far. And again, there are so many, future ideas. Some people know that there's, some type of communication integration, most likely between Office 365 and Gmail. I definitely want to have something like that where there is a true deep API integration between the two. Of course, the payment gateway, the floor plans, that's an absolute big thing. There's just so much on the plate. Like I said, there's eventually I'll announce it, hopefully once we start development and we're getting close to it, because I really want to wow the community with it. But there is some big things that I think that just even go over the top than what I have talked about in the past of solutions of the platform. But I think I'm going to end that here because I know my voice is definitely getting a little stressed out at this point. I will be doing more Q&As, as time permits and whatnot. I know not everybody can make a 7:30 or 7 o'clock Eastern time type of thing, so I'll probably have some midday stuff and all that. By all means, reach out to me if you have any other questions or whatnot. I will mention briefly that the lifetime memberships, if you are not a lifetime member yet, that is going to be for a limited time at some point between now and premium launch. That will go away. I definitely didn't want to keep that totally open-ended at any point. It's going to be $450, and that would be the equivalent of essentially 1 year of service. So to get that for a lifetime is a tremendous offer. And this is this is for operational income. Naturally, the more lifetime memberships that we get in, that helps to get us even a little bit further in what are the coffers in the bank allow us to have, be able to do. So that, take advantage of that while you can, because again, it will go away eventually. +1 for lifetime membership. Thank you, Vinny. Thank you. But other than that, please, again, stay tuned. I'm going to send out, emails and posts when they're relevant. I don't want to flood everybody, constantly with stuff. I don't want to be one of those annoying companies that do that, but I also want to keep people in the loop. So hopefully in the next coming weeks, when we have Drop Zone and our client capabilities in the system, or at least the client visibility within the system, I'll be sending out an announcement on that, because we'll be either at beta or at least close to beta, where, depending on a couple of these other small things, that could be the trip over to beta. That beta will be open, and again, Essentials will be free, and that basically starts us down the road for Essentials at that point. But again, thank you so much for tuning in. I really, really appreciate it. We'll catch you all on the flip side, and have a great night, everybody.